Yes, so we're here to talk about the worst word ever invented, wearables.
Oh, there are many worse words.
Come on, name one.
Oh, conference.
Fair enough. Tim, I notice you're wearing something. What are you wearing?
This is the Samsung Gear. I think of it as my Google Now watch. And it really emphasizes for me the connection between data and wearables. You know, this thing not only collects data, but it also shares data with me in an ambient way. And I have to say it's one of my favorite devices in quite a while. I probably wouldn't have bought it before I actually got it handed to me at Google I/O, but once I did, I go, if I lost it, I'd buy another one in a heartbeat.
Really? How often do you have to charge it?
Just daily. But think about it. You don't sleep in it. You take it off at night.
See, I would like to sleep in a watch. Liam, do you have any wearables?
Other than phones, no. Because again, when I'm looking at all the stuff that's coming, the stuff that's out there is pretty boring.
Yeah? Okay, that's interesting. So why isn't it interesting? What needs to change in wearables for you to get one?
For us, what we see is like the rapid development and the improvements that are coming. So you just get excited by the stuff that we're working on. And amazing, in the last couple of years, we started doing a lot of work with the startups, and there's this phenomenal can-do attitude about the startups, and we call them the generation why not, because they're testing the laws of physics every time. Why can't you do this? And
well, sometimes they don't know the laws of
which
physics.
Is great. Yes, exactly. So, and that's inexperience is a phenomenal innovator, and we encourage that.
Okay, and so there are a lot of hardware startups here. Liam, obviously you're around hardware and distribution. What's been driving this boom, and how important is design to this as well? Like, are you seeing nice design coming out? Is this something people have learned from Apple and are imitating, or are we seeing a fresh new take on it?
So for us, in 2008 we saw a huge change, because I'd spent 10 years in the fashion industry, and in the fashion industry I could go to a fabric mill and buy 60 meters of fabric, and I could take it to a contract manufacturer and make any kind of a garment I wanted from it. When I entered into the tech world and I saw there was these technology roadmaps and product roadmaps, and it was so long to develop a product, there was very little real innovation. But in 2008 we saw that people started to be let go from some of the companies that we're working with. They went into their garages and they started to innovate and to hack together with Arduino and with using Linux and then some 3D printing. Today you've got great tools. You've got like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Edison and Galileo from Intel. You've got Android, Linux, you've got phenomenal 3D printing. So that's driving this whole prototyping, and we're saying it's a renaissance in prototyping, which is driving a huge amount of innovation, and it's driving the renaissance in hardware. And in hardware and physical products, there's a moment of truth, which is when you get that first sample, and the first prototype, that's the magic. And that's where the innovation really happens. When you see the engineers and the entrepreneurs, and they get that first prototype in their hand, that's when they start to really get excited in what's possible. That's where you bring in design as well. And we've put design at the center of our Highway 1 program. We've put Marcus Gosling in there to lead the design group there, which is really exciting.
Can I jump in on this design topic? I think it's super important to realize that design is not just the design of the hardware device. It's design of the service that goes with it. And I think you also have to look at the arc of technology. Every technology movement begins with enthusiasts. Think about the Homebrew Computer Club, people doing it just for the love of it, but that turned into big companies. The early web, where we were all doing things just for the love of it, turned into big companies. Right now we're in the phase, went from the maker movement, enthusiasts, now we're in this entrepreneurial stage. But this is also going to end up with big companies dominating the market. And the defensible businesses that create real value are going to be not just hardware, but they're going to be services, and they're going to be saying, okay, once we have this hardware, what could we do differently? And that's why I like to get people who are thinking about the Internet of Things to look at businesses that are only possible because of hardware that you wouldn't think of as a hardware business. So in a lot of my talks, I've been talking about Uber, and I guess over here in the UK, I've been talking about Halo as an example. Only made possible because you have people carrying around, which is the ultimate wearable right now, the phone, and it's got all kinds of sensors in it, and somebody said, okay, what could we do differently in the real world because we have these sensors that tell us where the passenger is, where the driver is, can connect them in real time, they can communicate in real time. And then they really rethought the system of interaction out there in the world, and that system is what created the value. And you know, Uber and Halo didn't actually have to create a device at all, because the device was there, but the device made things possible. Wearables are going to be out there, and so there are going to be huge software opportunities enabled by the new hardware. And some of the hardware entrepreneurs should be those software entrepreneurs as well, and don't just think about the hardware, think about the entire service. And it's a service often that involves software above the level of a single device.
And again, any of the devices that you have, all it is software in a box, so that, you know, that software has got to be fantastic, that user experience. Uber is actually the example we will use to describe a great design experience as well.
Well, Uber is something, I think when the iPhone came out in 2007, you'd have to be very far-sighted. I'm sure, Tim, you were there straight away. But Uber is not obvious when Steve Jobs shows off the iPhone for the first time.
Yeah.
With the Apple Watch coming, it doesn't feel like there's a killer app, and it feels like Apple is sort of hoping someone will come up with it. Do you think we'll start to see those killer apps come and really make the argument for wearables in a way we haven't anticipated yet?
Well, for me at least, I think the killer apps are already here, you know, for this device. I mean, and unfortunately, it's not coming from a startup; it's coming from Google. You know, for me, Google Now is amazing. The speech, you know, I find myself talking to my watch all the time, particularly when I'm driving. I find myself, you know, it's just the ambient awareness that it gives me, the predictive analytics that they brought to bear, letting me know, leave early for work, you know, carry an umbrella, you know, whatever it might be. You know, there's this huge set of services that are already appearing on this watch, and I think there's going to be new form factors. But, and that's not to say there won't be new killer apps, but I do think that the agent-based predictive analytics space is going to be huge in this in wearables.
Okay, but I mean, I'm not sure saying take an umbrella is enough to get me to wear a smartwatch. I've got a Pebble, which I enjoy in that ambient information awareness. Yeah. I mean, for it to cross over and become a really mainstream thing, are we there yet? And what can we do?
No, of course we're not there yet. Yeah. I mean, every technology starts, you know, with a small group of enthusiasts. Even when you look at the iPhone, it took a few years for it completely to take off, and it really wasn't actually till they opened up the App Store. And I think that that's going to be the really interesting question. You know, who builds the platform that's actually open to entrepreneurs? And right now, everybody's trying to build their own silo. Yeah. And I think, you know, that could hold back wearables as much as anything.
And are we going to have that platform? Or I mean, you're on the Google Now Watch, is what you're calling it. We'll have Apple Watch.
Exactly.
Is that going to be device-led? And how, again, back to the product side of things, you know, the reason the iPhone has such a great ecosystem in part was because it's a fantastic product.
Yeah.
Will it be the same with smartwatches, whatever sort of wearables it is? Will the design of the product drive the platform, or will it be about, like you were saying, the services, the analytics? You know.
For us, we're seeing that, like, all of the startups that come to us, they want to work with all of the networks and all of the platforms, and that's a huge challenge. And we're currently working on a solution that allows us to get connectivity, and because there's going to be so many different protocols that it is a huge challenge today. Do you want to work with, you know, this platform or this platform? And for us, all of the startups want to work with right across all platforms as much as possible.
Right, but the platforms don't want to play nice together, and so we're going to have some ugliness first, I think.
But that's happened before, and that'll continue to happen,
Yeah.
I think. But I think it'll be whichever of the devices, the core devices will sell. That's where the startups will want to work.
Yeah. Okay. And are we being imaginative enough here as well? Do you think, like, in terms of what you're seeing, have you seen startups? Do you think, like, wow, these guys get, like, did you see that? The wearable drone that flies around, like, that's crazy. I kind of want one, but it's crazy. What's the crazy stuff you're seeing that excites you beyond sort of the big corporate stuff?
I think the drones, some of the drones we're seeing that we're working with, they're, you know, with the follow me functions and some of the, and again, it's all driven by the software features that allow you to control it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love some of the, you know, the far out quantified self stuff. This guy Rob Goldberg out of MIT has a startup that he's ended up selling a stress watch to veterans with PTSD to help them identify what kind of circumstances stress them out, because they don't, they're not mapping it, but it's all of a sudden you go, oh wait, I always, when I'm in this location, I'm always stressed. Why? And I love things that matter. First off, I also love this thing that you're doing with Tyndall. With the bike environmental monitors, crowdsourcing data in cities to understand the environment of the city. So I think there's a lot of fantastic stuff out there on the edges of helping us understand our world. I think this notion of contributing data, to collective.
Yeah, for us, I mean, again, there is so much data out there at the moment. It's how do you filter through all the data? And if you look at our booth where we put up it's a partnership with Tyndall, where we took I think we have 42 bikes around the city this week, and we've got sensors on them. They're measuring smoke, they're measuring speed, they're measuring the tracking the bikes live. But it's great because we actually dashboarded it, so you can see it on the screens and you see it live. And I think that's where, because you're right, I mean, are we being creative enough? It's how do you show people these are practical opportunities that you can use it, and you can use it right across so many different industries. And there's huge efficiencies to be had. In our world, we like to replace inventory with data. So how do you get the data? How do you measure it all around the world as it's moving?
Can you just unpack that a bit? Sorry, just replacing inventory with data. What do you mean by that?
So if you look at, we just did a contract with Radio Shack in the US, where it took them 3 months to take a product from their production lines to the stores. And we said, okay, give us live data, let us take over the supply chain so we can ship direct to stores. But we want the data, because that's how we monitor it. We've actually taken the 3 months down to 5.5 days by shipping direct. And you're taking a lot less working capital tied up, so it's far more efficient, okay? And the other thing is, you make so much less product overall, so the energy you're using to produce product is reduced greatly. So there's no waste in the chain.
So all those Amazon Fire Phone, millions of them stacked up.
Well, that's the thing that's super important to remember about hardware. I laugh because I'm in what used to be a, quote, hardware business, i.e. publishing books, where we've gone digital. And I tell you, digital is a heck of a lot easier because you don't have those inventory costs. You don't have to make guesses about how many you're going to need. Even today, with a fairly efficient channel, physical goods are better than they used to be, but you can still, as Amazon just demonstrated, you guess wrong, you can bury a lot of hardware. And so that's one of the reasons why what PCH is doing is super important, because they really can help a startup bring efficiency to the development of hardware. Because this is one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. Cash is so important in running a business. If you look at Amazon as a great example, they were a long time before they were profitable, but they were always cash flow positive. I wrote a piece on LinkedIn called How I Failed that talks a lot about cash. All through the 90s, which were a great period for my business in terms of what could have been profitability, we ate cash. And as a result, I had a lot of stock in, Google, for example, which I had to sell to fund the business, So I look at some of these whereas now, the business is books sell far fewer copies and so on. And yet, I've been stockpiling cash because we figured out how to turn the company cash flow positive. And hardware, cash is king. Any business, cash is king. But
I've been trying to stockpile cash myself.
Yeah.
It's not been great. But sorry.
Yeah.
But again, we always say to the startups that equity should never go into funding inventory. Okay? Because that's so important. Like, if you raise money to fund inventory, you're not going to succeed because you need to fund just the rest of the team and build the company. Now,
a distribution, and sales.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of what needs to be fixed. If you look at and the Chinese model, the way the Chinese are selling, you look at a company like Xiaomi. I mean, I could take the Amazon phones, rebrand them to Xiaomi phones, and they'd be sold in 15 minutes. Okay, that's the way they sell.
So should Jeff be calling you to help you do that?
I think it's too late. It's all in his distribution centers.
I mean, you mentioned quite a few different cases on the edges. Do you think, especially for startups, that is going to be a lot of niche devices rather than one super device. So you'll wear maybe your watch there, but then you'll have a fitness tracking band as well. And would you advise them to go for those niches and go hard for a niche, or be a bit more general?
I would say I would be surprised if fitness trackers survive. I think they will be incorporated into more general purpose devices. But will there be lots of niche devices? Absolutely. The baby bed that monitors your baby's sleeping, more specialized health monitoring. Sure. I mean, there'll definitely be health monitoring devices, but the kind of entry-level stuff that just sort of measuring heart rate and steps, no, those things are going to be incorporated in more general devices. But technology will become ubiquitous everywhere in things, and interoperability is really, really, really going to matter. I think something else I would just say from my own experience, I think speech is going to become a first-class interface, and you really need to take that into account. I met recently with a company that's working on some next-gen in-car systems. And I had to say to them, guys, do you think people are really still going to be pawing at screens in 2018 when they come out in cars? And the answer is no.
Speech is great in the car. You don't look like a lunatic. You can sing whatever. Is it going to work in the street? People are going to be walking down going like, okay, get me.
Hey, listen, the first time, maybe some of the people in the audience are too young to remember this, but the first time any of us saw somebody standing on a street corner with a Bluetooth headset talking to the air, we thought, what the hell is that crazy person doing?
It still looks crazy though.
Yeah, I know, but it happened. So, yes, I expect that people will be sitting there talking to their watches.
This is
or their whatever's.
A bold future. And just
or
last
their
question.
Star Trek communicator.
This is, God, I'm not
By
sure.
the way, On Beep, it's another company. That's
just launched.
That's the other thing. Think about niche audiences, so the Star Trek communicator devices company On Beep, they're looking at people like in construction, say, or first responders. These are people who need push to talk, and so there's a push to talk device for that market.
Well, that's what it feels like with, say, Google Glass, which is a wearable device, and it's sort of not quite been adopted. Were they trying to do too much rather than just going for a niche?
I think that they wanted to be too cool, and they should have said, no, we want to be useful. Because being cool is hard, I mean, the whole history of fashion is littered with failure. Stuff comes and goes. What do they say on Project Runway? One day you're in, the next day you're out, right? And that's fashion for you. Whereas if you're delivering real utility, I would have loved to see Google Glass on a doctor, looking up information. Again, if you look at where they're going with IBM Watson as a diagnostic aid, that will certainly end up being connected to a device like Google Glass.
Yeah. Liam, is that your take for startups? Don't be cool.
Yeah, don't be cool. I mean, again, when we look at startups, it is no different to a software company. You have to focus on the entrepreneurs and the team, and that's. First of all, it's great to build a device, but you've got to build a company and build a business around it. That's the hard thing, and that's no different to software.
Yeah. And let me come back to niches. The kind of niche that you want to look at is something that's already demonstrated, in many cases, that it's a big business. There's a company that I'm an investor in called MakeSpace. It's like, where do you put your stuff? The storage market. Right now you go in this moldy storage locker and you have whatever you want is always in the back. Well, they went, well, gosh, if we actually take pictures of what's in the cases, we can do it much more like Uber. You say, hey, I want my skis, and they show up on my door the next day. So that's rethinking a market that's already huge, but using the capabilities of sensors and tracking and all this kind of stuff to turn it into something that's much more robotic, the robotic warehouse of the future as opposed to the moldy warehouse of the past. So lots and lots of opportunities to rethink existing businesses. Another one, another hardware business, pretty far from wearables. We're in a company called Planet Labs, which launches shoebox-sized satellites. When they say how many satellites are in space, number one is the U.S., number two is Russia, number three, Planet Labs. It's kind of amazing because they're tiny. They weigh 8 pounds.
Last question, very quickly. Just all the hardware startups, anyone starting today, what would you say to them? Just one sentence right now.
I'd say the same thing I say to every startup in any industry: work on stuff that matters.
Yeah. Liam?
Yeah, make stuff that people want.
Good advice. Guys, thank you very much indeed.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.